What if I told you that a single stolen document, a daring pilot, or a whispered conversation in the dead of night could change the course of history? For over 4 decades, the world was locked in a silent battle, one fought not with bullets and bombs, but with secrets and deception. The Cold War wasn't just about nuclear threats and political tensions. It was a battlefield of spies, double agents, and covert missions that shaped global power. From daring high-altitude spy plane missions to deep-cover double agents, espionage was the hidden weapon that kept the balance of power shifting between East and West. Today, we'll uncover 3 of the most dangerous and game-changing spy missions of the Cold War. Missions so secretive that some details remained classified for decades. Let's begin with one of the most shocking incidents in Cold War espionage, the U-2 spy plane that triggered an international crisis and nearly led to war. Titled The U-2 Incident, A Spy in the Sky on screen text. In the late 1950s, the United States had a problem. The Soviet Union was a mystery. Its military capabilities, nuclear stockpiles, and secret bases were all hidden behind an iron curtain. America needed eyes in the sky. Enter the U-2 spy plane, a technological marvel designed to fly at 70,000 feet, so high that Soviet missiles and fighter jets couldn't reach it. Or so they thought. May 1, 1960. CIA pilot Francis Gary Powers takes off from a U.S. airbase in Pakistan on a top-secret mission. His objective: fly deep into Soviet territory and capture high-resolution photographs of military sites. The mission starts smoothly. Powers glides over Soviet missile bases, snapping images that could give the U.S. a strategic advantage. But then, disaster strikes. Unbeknownst to the U.S., the Soviets had upgraded their air defense systems. A Soviet SA-2 surface-to-air missile locks onto the U-2 and within seconds, boom! The aircraft is hit. Powers ejects, parachuting down into enemy territory, alive. The Soviets waste no time. They capture Powers and recover the wreckage, including the plane's camera equipment and classified materials. This wasn't just a downed aircraft. It was undeniable proof that the U.S. was spying on the USSR. Back in Washington, the United States is caught off guard. The government initially denies any involvement, claiming it was a weather research plane that went off course. But then, the Soviets drop a bombshell. They have Powers alive, and his confession makes headlines worldwide. Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev publicly exposes the United States, humiliating President Eisenhower. The fallout is catastrophic. The planned Paris peace summit between the United States and USSR collapses, pushing the 2 superpowers further into Cold War tensions. As for Francis Gary Powers, he is sentenced to 10 years in a Soviet prison. But 2 years later, a secret exchange is arranged. Powers is swapped for Soviet spy Rudolf Abel in one of history's most famous spy trades. The U-2 incident proved one thing: espionage in the Cold War was a dangerous game, and every mission carried the risk of igniting a global crisis. Titled The Cambridge 5 Spies in the Heart of the West on screen text. In the 1930s, 5 brilliant students at Cambridge University were recruited, not by Britain's intelligence service but by the Soviet Union. Their mission? To infiltrate the highest levels of the British and American governments and pass secrets to Moscow. They would become known as the Cambridge 5, the most infamous spy ring of the Cold War. At the height of their careers, they held top positions in MI6, the British Foreign Office, and even U.S. intelligence agencies. But all the while, they were leaking secrets to the KGB, nuclear weapons programs, counterintelligence operations, and military strategies. Kim Philby, the most notorious of them all, became a senior officer in British intelligence. His position gave him direct access to anti-Soviet operations, and he made sure every move the West made was reported back to Moscow. Because of their espionage, dozens of Western agents were exposed, arrested, or executed by the Soviets. The damage was immense. For years, suspicions grew. MI5, Britain's counterintelligence agency, started piecing the puzzle together. By the early 1950s, cracks began to form. In 1951, two members of the Ring, Donald MacLean and Guy Burgess, were tipped off that British intelligence was onto them. Instead of facing capture, they fled to Moscow, shocking the world. That left Philby under intense scrutiny, but he was a master of deception. He convinced MI6 that he was innocent, until 1963, when the truth finally caught up with him. Realizing he was about to be exposed, Philby defected to the Soviet Union, leaving behind a trail of betrayal. The Cambridge Five's legacy is one of deception and ideological loyalty. They weren't spies for money but for belief, believing the Soviet Union was the future. Their actions permanently damaged Western intelligence, proving that sometimes the greatest threats come from within. Operation Ivy Bells, the underwater spy mission. In the 1970s, at the height of the Cold War, the United States launched one of its most daring espionage missions, not in the air or on land, but deep beneath the ocean. It was called Operation Ivy Bells, a covert mission to tap into Soviet underwater communication cables and eavesdrop on their military secrets. The target? A highly classified Soviet naval cable running beneath the frigid waters of the Sea of Okhotsk, inside Soviet territory, where no American should have been. To pull this off, the United States deployed the USS Halibut, a specially modified submarine equipped with advanced spy technology. Its mission: locate the cable, plant a recording device, and extract intelligence, all while avoiding detection by the Soviet Navy. In total darkness, elite Navy divers swam out of the submarine, carefully attaching a sophisticated wiretap device to the undersea cable. The best part? The device didn't interrupt the signal, meaning the Soviets had no idea their communications were being intercepted. For years, the United States gathered top-secret Soviet military intelligence, submarine movements, nuclear launch strategies, and high-level conversations between Soviet naval commanders. But then, betrayal struck. In the early 1980s, an American NSA analyst named Ronald Pelton walked into a Soviet embassy with a dangerous secret. He knew about Ivy Bells. For just $35,000, Pelton sold out the mission, giving the KGB everything they needed to track down and destroy the wiretap. The Soviets quickly found the tap and removed it, cutting off the US from its most valuable source of undersea intelligence. Pelton was eventually caught and sentenced to life in prison, but the damage was done. Operation Ivy Bells had been one of the most successful spy missions of the Cold War, until a single act of greed brought it to an end. Even in the Cold War, where spies lurked in every shadow, sometimes the greatest secrets were hidden beneath the waves. Conclusion: the lasting legacy of Cold War espionage on screen text. From high-altitude spy planes to deep-cover double agents and underwater espionage, the Cold War was fought not just with nuclear threats, but with secrets and deception. The missions we've explored today, the U-2 incident, the Cambridge 5, and Operation Ivy Bells, did more than gather intelligence. They shaped global politics, fueled distrust, and proved that in the Cold War, knowledge was the ultimate weapon. Though the Cold War ended in 1991, the battle for intelligence never truly stopped. Today, espionage continues in new forms: cyber warfare, digital surveillance, and international intelligence operations. The methods may have changed, but the game remains the same. The question is, who's watching now? If you enjoyed this deep dive into Cold War espionage, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which spy mission shocked you the most. The words Cold War secrets appear in bold red letters before disappearing.